I watched Sister Maria's body hit the stone floor before I could scream. Blood pooled beneath her torn habit, and in the darkness of the corridor, I saw it. Massive, covered in matted black fur, eyes reflecting the candlelight like burning coals. That thing wasn't supposed to exist. My name is Jack Morrison. I'm 38 years old, and I used to be a restoration contractor from Denver. Used to be because after what happened at St. Agnes Convent in the winter of 2024, I can't go back to being the person I was. Some people say I'm crazy. The police said I was traumatized. But I know what I saw. I know what hunted us through those ancient stone corridors for 3 nights. And I know I'm one of the only people who made it out alive. Let me start from the beginning. I got the contract for St. Agnes in late November. The place was a massive stone convent built into the mountainside about 40 miles outside Colorado Springs, constructed in 1887 by Franciscan nuns. It had been abandoned since the 1950s, but a historical preservation society wanted to restore it as a museum. The pay was excellent, double my usual rate, because of the remote location and the condition of the structure. I'd be working through December, mostly alone except for the small group of nuns who still maintained a presence there, living in the renovated East Wing. I arrived on December 3rd, driving my truck up a winding mountain road that was already treacherous with early snow. St. Agnes loomed out of the gray afternoon like something from a Gothic nightmare, all dark stone and narrow windows, with a bell tower that pierced the low clouds. The forest pressed in close on 3 sides, dense pine and aspen that seemed to swallow the light. Sister Catherine met me at the entrance, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. She showed me to my quarters, a small room in the west wing that smelled of old wood and stone. 5 other nuns lived there, Sisters Maria, Elizabeth, Anne, Grace, and young Sister Teresa, who couldn't have been more than 25. We keep to ourselves mostly, Sister Catherine explained as we walked through the cold corridors. Evening prayers are at 6, and we lock all exterior doors at sunset. The wolves have been active this year. Wolves, I asked? Mountain wolves. They come down when it's cold. Stay inside after dark, Mr. Morrison, and we've lost chickens, and something killed our goat last week. Tore it apart. I nodded, thinking it was just normal wildlife. I'd worked in remote locations before. The first week passed uneventfully. I spent my days assessing structural damage, photographing crumbling sections, and planning the restoration. The convent was beautiful in a haunting way. Long corridors with vaulted ceilings, a chapel with intact stained glass, cells where nuns had once slept and prayed. But there was something oppressive about it too. The silence had weight, and at night, lying in my cold room, I could hear things moving outside. Scratching, heavy footsteps in the snow. On December 10th, things changed. I was working in the chapel that afternoon, examining water damage on the far wall, when Sister Teresa rushed in. Her face was white, her eyes wide with fear. Mr. Morrison, you need to come. Something's happened to the livestock. I followed her outside to the small barn behind the east wing. The scene was carnage. 4 chickens lay scattered across the blood-stained snow, their bodies torn open. But it was the sheep that made my stomach turn. 3 of them had been slaughtered, not killed for food, but destroyed, ripped apart with such violence that pieces were scattered across a 20-foot radius. The barn door had been smashed inward, the wooden planks splintered. No wolf did this, I said quietly. Sister Catherine stood at the edge of the scene, her face grave. We need to call the police. But the phone lines were down. The storm that had been building all day hit that night with full force. Heavy snow and wind that howled around the stone walls like something alive. We were cut off, the mountain road impassable. That night, I heard the howling for the first time. It wasn't like any wolf I'd ever heard. It was deeper, more resonant, with an almost human quality that made my skin crawl. It echoed through the darkness, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. I went to my window and looked out at the snow-covered courtyard. The moon was full, breaking through the clouds, turning everything silver in shadow. That's when I saw it. A shape moved at the edge of the tree line, massive, walking upright on 2 legs. Even from a distance, I could see it was wrong. Too tall, too broad, covered in dark fur that seemed to absorb the moonlight. It turned its head toward the convent, and I swear it looked directly at my window. Then it vanished into the trees. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, December 11th, Sister Maria was missing. We searched the entire convent. Her room was empty, her bed made. The exterior doors were all locked from the inside. Sister Anne found tracks in the fresh snow outside the kitchen. Massive prints, bigger than any bear, with claw marks that dug deep into the frozen ground. They led from the tree line to the kitchen window, then back again. "We need to leave," Sister Elizabeth said, her voice shaking. "Whatever's out there." "The road is blocked," I interrupted. "We're snowed in for at least 2 more days. The storm's supposed to break tomorrow night." Sister Catherine made the decision. "We stay together. No one goes anywhere alone. We'll wait it out, and when the road is clear, we leave immediately." But that night it got inside. I was with Sisters Catherine, Anne, and Teresa in the common room, trying to reinforce the windows with boards from my supplies. Sisters Elizabeth and Grace were in the kitchen preparing a meal. It was around 7 in the evening when we heard the scream. We ran toward the sound, and that's when I saw Sister Maria, or what was left of her, in the west corridor. She was crumpled against the wall, her habit torn, dark stains spreading across the stone floor. Standing over her was the thing from the forest. It was massive, easily 7 feet tall, with a body that was grotesquely muscular beneath matted black fur. Its face was a nightmare fusion of human and wolf, elongated jaws filled with teeth like knives, a flat nose in those eyes, yellow eyes that gleamed with intelligence and hunger. Its hands were tipped with claws as long as my fingers. It turned toward us and made a sound, not a growl, not a howl, but something in between, a wet rattling that came from deep in its chest. Then it moved. I've never seen anything move that fast. It covered the distance between us in 2 bounds, claws outstretched. Sister Anne pushed me aside, and the creature's claws raked across her shoulder, tearing through fabric and flesh. She screamed and fell. "Run!" Sister Catherine shouted, grabbing Teresa and pulling her back toward the common room. I grabbed Sister Anne, half carrying her as we fled. Behind us, the thing's claws scraped against stone as it pursued. We made it to the common room and slammed the heavy oak door, throwing the bolt. Something hit the door from the other side with tremendous force, and the wood cracked. "The chapel!" I shouted. "The door is reinforced metal." We ran again. Through corridors I'd walked 100 times that now seemed like a maze of shadows and terror. Sister Anne was losing too much strength from her wounds, her weight becoming harder to support. We could hear it behind us, not howling but breathing, a deep rasping sound punctuated by the click of claws on stone. We reached the chapel and got inside, slamming and locking the metal door just as the creature crashed against it. The door held, but the impacts continued, each one denting the metal inward. We could hear it outside, circling, testing the windows. Sisters Elizabeth and Grace were already in the chapel, having fled there when they heard the screams. Sister Catherine began checking Sister Anne's wounds while I looked for anything we could use as a weapon. The chapel had been stripped of most furnishings during the abandonment, but I found some iron candlesticks and a heavy wooden crucifix that had fallen behind the altar. "What is that thing?" Teresa sobbed. "What is it?" "I don't know," I said. But that was a lie. I knew what it looked like. I knew what the old stories called it. But saying it out loud seemed impossible. We spent that night huddled in the chapel, listening to it prowl outside. Sometimes we'd hear scratching at the windows. Sometimes that terrible breathing. Toward dawn, there was silence. And when we finally dared to look out the windows, we saw tracks leading back to the forest. Sister Maria's body was gone. December 12th was a day of desperate preparation. Sister Anne was in bad shape. The claw marks had been deep, and we had limited medical supplies. We used what we had and prayed it would be enough. Meanwhile, Sister Catherine, Elizabeth, Grace, and I worked to fortify our position. We moved all the food and water we could find into the chapel. I reinforced the door with boards and anything else I could use. The windows were too high to easily reach from outside, but I covered them anyway. "The stories my grandmother told," Sister Grace said quietly as we worked, "about the old country, about men who became beasts under the full moon. I thought they were just fairy tales. It targeted Sister Maria first, Sister Catherine said, and it's hunting us specifically. This isn't just an animal. As darkness fell, we locked ourselves in the chapel again. The moon was still nearly full, visible through the stained glass windows, casting colored shadows across the stone floor. We waited. The howling started at 9 o'clock. Closer this time, multiple voices joining in a chorus that made the windows vibrate. Then the attack began. The creature hit the door repeatedly, each impact stronger than the last. I could see the metal beginning to buckle. Then there was silence, followed by a new sound, something scraping against stone high above us. It was climbing the bell tower. It's going to come down through the bell tower entrance, I realized. There was a small door at the back of the chapel that led to stairs up to the tower. We'd locked it, but it was old wood, not like the main door. I grabbed the heavy crucifix and positioned myself in front of it, while Sister Catherine gathered the others behind me. The door exploded inward. The black werewolf filled the doorway, its massive frame blotting out the darkness behind it. In the light of our candles, I could see it clearly, the muscles rippling beneath the fur, the saliva dripping from its jaws, the intelligence in those yellow eyes. It wasn't just a monster. It was a hunter that enjoyed the hunt. It came for me first. I swung the crucifix with all my strength, connecting with its shoulder. The creature barely flinched, but it gave me time to back away. It advanced slowly now, savoring our terror. Behind me, I heard prayers being whispered in Latin. The werewolf lunged, and I threw myself aside. Its claws missed me by inches, tearing gouges in the stone wall. I scrambled to my feet and grabbed one of the iron candlesticks, jabbing it at the creature like a spear. The point caught it in the chest, and for the first time it made a sound that might have been pain, but it also made it angry. The werewolf's claw caught my leg, tearing through my jeans and flesh. I fell, and it was on me immediately, its weight crushing, its breath hot and rotten in my face. Those jaws opened wide, and I could see down its throat. Then Sister Catherine hit it with a burning torch. The creature recoiled, its fur smoldering. Sister Catherine, this 60-year-old nun, stood between me and the monster with a makeshift torch made from a wooden board and lamp oil, her face set with determination. The werewolf circled, looking for an opening, but she kept the flame between them. "Get to the sacristy," she shouted. "There's a way out through the crypts." I didn't want to leave her, but Sister Elizabeth was already pulling me up, and Teresa and Grace were heading for the small door on the side of the chapel. Sister Anne was barely conscious, being supported between them. Sister Catherine backed toward us, keeping the torch high. The werewolf followed, and I could see the calculation in its eyes. It was waiting for the flame to die. We made it through the sacristy door and into the crypts beneath the chapel. The space was narrow, dark, and smelled of earth and old stone. Sister Catherine came through last and slammed the door, throwing the bolt. We could hear the werewolf throwing itself against it, but this door was thick oak reinforced with iron bands. It would hold, for a while. "This way, Sister," Grace said, lighting a candle. The crypts connect to the old wine cellar, and from there to a tunnel that leads outside the walls. We moved through the darkness, past stone shelves holding the remains of long-dead nuns, past carved Latin inscriptions and crumbling mortar. Sister Anne was getting worse, her breathing shallow. Behind us, we could hear the steady pounding as the werewolf worked at the door. The wine cellar was a low-ceilinged space filled with broken racks and ancient bottles. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind a collapsed shelf, which we cleared away. The tunnel itself was barely wide enough for one person, sloping downward into darkness. "It leads to the old groundskeeper's cottage," Sister Elizabeth explained. "About a quarter mile from here." We started through with Grace leading and Catherine taking the rear. The tunnel was rough stone, barely tall enough to walk upright. Water dripped from the ceiling, and the air was close and damp. Behind us, echoing through the crypts, we heard wood splintering. The door had given way. We moved faster, but Sister Anne could barely walk now. Teresa and I were practically carrying her. I could hear heavy breathing behind us, echoing in the confined space. The werewolf had entered the tunnel. The creature was too large for the tunnel, but that wasn't stopping it. We could hear it forcing its way through, stone grinding against fur and bone, its breathing echoing like a bellows. It was crawling, pulling itself along, getting closer. "Faster!" Sister Catherine urged. We saw moonlight ahead, the tunnel exit. We emerged into the remains of the groundskeeper's barters. Nothing but crumbling walls and a collapsed roof open to the night sky. Fresh snow covered everything, and the forest loomed on all sides. Sister Anne collapsed as soon as we got her outside. I knelt beside her, but I could see she was dying. The wounds were too deep, and she'd lost too much strength. She looked up at me with glassy eyes. Go, she whispered. Don't let it. The werewolf exploded from the tunnel entrance. It had been forced to crawl, but now it rose to its full height, covered in stone dust and fury. It howled, the sound splitting the night, and I knew we were going to die here. Sister Catherine stepped forward, placing herself between the creature and the rest of us. She held up a silver crucifix from around her neck. In the name of God, I command you to... The werewolf's claw struck her across the chest, sending her flying into the ruined wall. She crumpled and didn't move. Teresa screamed. Sister Grace pulled her back, and we ran into the forest. Behind us, I heard Sister Anne's final cry, cut short. Then the werewolf was after us again. The forest at night in winter is a maze of shadows and snow. We ran blindly, branches tearing at our faces, roots trying to trip us. Sister Elizabeth fell, and Grace stopped to help her. I grabbed Teresa and kept running, knowing the creature would catch us eventually, but driven by pure survival instinct. We broke through the trees into a small clearing. The full moon illuminated everything in harsh silver light. I could see the road below, still blocked by snow, but maybe we could make it. Then Teresa jerked in my grip and screamed. I turned and saw the werewolf at the edge of the clearing, holding Sisters Elizabeth and Grace by their throats, one in each massive claw. It looked directly at me with those intelligent yellow eyes, and then, deliberately, it squeezed. I heard bones snap. I watched the light go out in their eyes. The werewolf dropped the bodies and started toward us. Teresa was frozen in terror. I shoved her toward the road. Run! Don't stop! I grabbed a fallen branch, ridiculously inadequate, but it was all I had, and charged the creature. I had to buy Teresa time. I had to give her a chance. The werewolf caught the branch in one claw and splintered it. Its other claw came around and caught me across the ribs, lifting me off my feet and throwing me 10 feet through the air. I hit a tree trunk and felt something break inside me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only watch as the werewolf advanced, taking its time now, savoring the moment. I could see Teresa in the distance, stumbling down toward the road, and I knew she wasn't going to make it either. The creature loomed over me, its jaws opened. I could smell old death on its breath. Then, from the direction of the convent, I heard an engine. A snowmobile came roaring out of the darkness, its headlight cutting through the trees. The werewolf turned, momentarily confused. The snowmobile hit it at full speed. The impact threw the creature backward, and it rolled in the snow, coming up in a crouch. The snowmobile's rider, I couldn't see who it was, circled around and came back for me. Strong hands grabbed me and hauled me onto the back of the machine. Hold on, a man's voice shouted. We accelerated, racing through the trees toward where Teresa had fallen. The werewolf was already recovering, already chasing. The snowmobile slid to a stop and the rider jumped off, scooping up Teresa. I tried to hold on as we sped away again, but my broken ribs were agony with every bump. Behind us, the werewolf was gaining. It ran on all fours now, faster than anything that size should be able to move, crashing through undergrowth like it wasn't there. But the snowmobile was faster, and we burst out onto the main road. Another snowmobile was waiting, and 2 more men were there with rifles. They opened fire as our werewolf pursuer broke from the trees. The shots hit it. I saw the impacts, saw it stagger, but it didn't go down. It howled in rage and pain, then turned and fled back into the forest. Our rescuer didn't stop until we reached a ranger station 5 miles down the mountain. Park rangers, responding to an emergency beacon that Sister Catherine had activated before she died, had reached us just in time. They didn't believe my story. How could they? I was delirious with pain and blood loss, babbling about werewolves while they radioed for medical evacuation. Teresa was catatonic, unable to speak. They found the bodies eventually, what was left of them. Sister Anne, Sister Catherine, Sisters Elizabeth and Grace. Sister Maria was never found. The official report called it a bear attack. An unusually large black bear driven down from the mountains by the harsh winter, exhibiting abnormal aggressive behavior. The investigation was brief. The convent was officially condemned as structurally unsafe. The historical preservation project was canceled. They kept me in the hospital for 2 weeks. Broken ribs, massive lacerations, trauma. Teresa was in the psychiatric ward. They said she might never speak again. The other survivors, the nuns from a nearby monastery who had sent the rangers, they knew what we'd seen, but they wouldn't talk about it publicly. Some things, Sister Helena told me when she visited, were better left in darkness. But I can't leave it in darkness. I've tried to go back to my normal life, but I can't work anymore. Can't sleep. Every shadow might hide something with yellow eyes and black fur. Every howl in the distance might be it, coming for me. Because here's what keeps me awake at night. They never found Sister Teresa's body. 3 days after we were rescued, she disappeared from the psychiatric ward, walked out into the night and was never seen again. The police searched but found nothing. Nothing except tracks in the snow outside her window. Large tracks, canine tracks. And sometimes when the moon is full and I'm alone in my apartment in Denver with all the locks secured, I hear scratching at my door, patient, persistent, waiting. The werewolf of St. Agnes is still out there, and I think it knows I survived. I think it remembers me, and I think someday soon it's going to come finish what it started in those frozen corridors. Last week I saw someone standing across the street from my building, just standing there in the darkness, watching my window. Too tall, too broad. When a car passed and its headlights swept across, I saw the reflection from their eyes, yellow, catching the light like an animal's. Then they were gone. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what really happened at St. Agnes Convent. The official story is a lie. 6 women died in those mountains, torn apart by something that shouldn't exist. And I'm going to be the 7th. I can hear it now, outside my door. Breathing. Waiting. The lock won't hold. They never do. If you're reading this, then I'm already dead. The werewolf came for me, just like I knew it would. Don't go looking for it. Don't try to hunt it. Just pray that it never decides to hunt you. Because once it marks you, once you see those yellow eyes in the darkness and live to tell about it, you're already dead. You just don't know it yet. The scratching is getting louder. The door is starting to splinter. God forgive me for what I'm about to become.